came to meditative music, and it was so fulfilling and fun to do. I thought, wow, why didn't anyone ever tell me about this? And so I've been doing that for many years, and I have recordings that get played on Pandora Music in the States. I mean, I think it's only in the States and New Zealand and Australia or something. But anyway, and then I thought, gee, maybe other people would like to, be able to play meditative music. So because I'd done many meditations that had happened with music, that was really my way. I tried transcendental meditation. I tried vipassana, sit there. And yeah, I could sort of do that, but the really great thing for me was doing it with the help of music, so to speak. And not only doing meditations with music, but making meditative music myself. So today, the idea is to start off with something physical, because usually that's a helpful thing, is to get into your body and also to kind of loosen it up. And then the second step after that is maybe do something a little more meditative, and then do it with your instrument. So I didn't say this, but if you have, I thought, gee, it says yoga in the instructions, so we won't actually be doing something on the floor for yoga, but we will be doing an Alexander technique where you do lie on the floor, called constructive rest, which is such a great title. It's like, gee, I feel like lying down. Oh, I'll do constructive rest, and then I'm doing something. And it's very effective. You just lie on the floor with your knees up and your feet on the floor. And after about 10 minutes, your whole spine realigns itself, and your body kind of gets in balance. In yoga, of course, as many of you probably know, usually you do a yoga session, and then at the end you lie down in Shavasana, the corpse pose. What a great name. Anyway, and that's another way to actually have a transcendental experience, because that was when I had my first experiences of really deep peace, was after doing some exercise and getting everything aligned in my body and mind. So we won't, this just means when we get to the end of the yoga bit, then it's good if you have something to lie on, and something, for example, like a yoga mat or a blanket. And the other thing you'll need is to test this out, you'll need a book under your head, and to test the thickness of how thick the book should be, if you stand up against the wall, just put your shoulders against the wall, and then notice how far your head is from the wall. Then you just get a book of about that thickness to put under your head. The idea is if you just lie on the floor, that's too hard. If you lie on the bed, that's too soft. And so something in between, like a yoga mat or a blanket. And then a book is about the right hardness. You can also fold up a blanket, but that's later. So actually what I'd like to start off with is ages-old meditative practice. Like the Sufis did it, and also you do it in Qigong, it's Chinese, it's just shaking. And basically you kind of shake out everything that you've been holding or repressing or stuck places. And you can, some folks, Sufis for example, they would shake all day. Well, we won't shake all day. Some of them, I just use it sometimes shaking for 5 minutes. The recording that I made is 10 minutes, and for the first 4 minutes or so, I'm kind of giving instructions, because the idea is you're going to keep your knees relaxed and loose, and then you kind of add in your pelvis, and then your arms shake easily. And it's something that everybody can do, so do watch out for your body in these exercises. You have to sort of notice where your limits are and don't go over them, because The idea is that you don't have to hurt yourself. Okay, so this one we'll do standing up. And I'm going to, usually you do shaking with your eyes closed. Okay. Start with your feet about hip width apart. Your toes pointing out a bit if that's comfortable for you. Gently bend your knees and straighten them, but not all the way. Keep your knees loose. Repeat. Feel the movement. Feel it also moves the bones in your feet. Travel up your legs with your awareness and let your calves and shins shake. Let the front and the back of your thighs shake. Start to rock your pelvis along with the knee bending. You can start to feel your spine moving along with the pelvis. Let that movement continue up the spine so that your whole back gets involved in the movement. Now let your shoulders and arms join in more freely. Let them swing and shake. Let your hands and fingers shake as well, as if you were shaking water droplets off of them. Travel up to your neck, keeping your head upright. Let your head gently shake on top of your spine. Let your face shake. We carry lots of tension in our faces. Let your jaw relax. And now shake wherever you feel like you might still have some tension. Shake it loose. Shake it off. Slowly reduce the shaking until your body is standing comfortably. Check through your body to see how it's feeling. Compare right and left. Your feet, calves, shins, knees and thighs, the pelvis, your abdomen, your rear end, your lower back, belly, chest, upper back, shoulders, upper arms, lower arms, right and left, your hands, your fingers. And now with your awareness, go to your neck and feel your skull, your face, your forehead, nose, cheeks, eyes, and jaw. Slowly come to sitting with your back straight. Close your eyes and feel how the energy is moving in your body. Yeah, so just notice what kind of effect that had on you. And now we're going to do a couple of yoga stretches. So basically, I'm sitting in front of a desk. So I'm just going to put my hands on the desk and stand up, and I'm going to stretch back and drop my chest between my arms, so that I get a good stretch in my back. And I can even reach one arm a little further than the other one and stretch my ribs on each side. So the important thing here is not to drop your chest too much, because you don't want to arch your back too much. But you do want to get a stretch in the ribs and extend the spine. That's always a good idea before doing other yoga stuff, which we will now do sitting in a chair. So these are things, of course, that you can do while you're, I don't know, while you're teaching, while you're sitting in the orchestra rehearsal, while you're sitting too long at the computer. And so, first of all, we'll just do a simple neck stretch. So the idea is to go up and lean over to the side, and then you can stretch your opposite arm out and down. So you get a good stretch in your neck. If you move your head forward, it'll stretch more in the back of your neck, and if you move your head a little back, it'll stretch in a different spot. Okay, and then let's do it on the other side. And traditionally, we would take an in-breath, and on the out-breath, extend your head towards the ceiling and to the side, and then extend your opposite arm contrary to that, so you get a nice stretch in the neck. Once once again, you can move your head a little forward if you want to stretch the back of the neck, or move your head back. You find that right place for you. And keep breathing, breathing in the belly. That's usually a good idea. Now, we're just going to extend ourselves up so that the spine is extended. And if you have arms on your chair, you can hold the arms. Otherwise, you can hold the seat or the chair back. So on the inhale, extend up, and on the exhale, you're just going to turn as if from your hips. And then inhale again. And on the exhale, your upper chest. And then inhale, and on the exhale, you can turn your head to look over your shoulder. Inhale, extend up, and exhale, turn, like you're wringing out a towel. Inhale, stretch up, and exhale, a little further. Inhale and come back to center, and just feel right and left. It's always good to notice what happened. And of course, any rib stretches are really great for flute players because we need all the capacity up here that we can get. So let's do it on the other side now. So find your position. I usually put my opposite hand on the other side of my knee and then breathe in. And first of all, I'm extending up and then turning from the lower back or the lower spine. So watch out if you have any back problems. Make sure you're extending up and don't overdo this. Breathe in and chest rotates. And breathe in. And on the out breath, you can get your shoulders rotating. And then next, in breath, out breath, turn your head. And then each in breath, extend upwards, and on the out breath, wring out that towel. And then in breath up, out breath, wring out the towel. In breath, and out breath. And on the in breath, you can release and come back to center again. Feel how you feel. Right, and so now, just extend your legs out in front of you. This is sort of stuff you do on the airplane too, right? So that you stretch your legs, you can keep your heels on the floor, and you're going to stretch one foot pointed and the other foot towards you. Just so you stretch the calves and also the shins, the front of your legs, yeah? If you want, you can also do that with your breath. Inhaling and exhaling on the movement. You just time it with your breath. I noticed that as a flute player, I breathe slower than all the guys who are people who do these kind of exercises. It's like they seem to breathe about twice as fast as I do. So I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but if you have, let me know. I never really asked anybody about it. Okay, so then put your feet back flat on the floor. And now we're just going to do a forward bend. So that means we're going to keep our upper back straight and just bend forward. So here we have bent knees, just normal sitting position, but still extending out from your head, from the top of your head. And on the inhale, you can do nothing. And on the exhale, extend and see if you can bend a little more forwards and if your ribs can come towards your thighs, but keeping your back fairly straight the whole time. Then come back to sitting. The idea also is to keep your shoulders down. I noticed it gets quite tense up there. Of course, you can, oh, good, someone else noticed that about breathing. Yay! You can also do this with, well, both feet extended, or at least one foot extended, like you had your foot before. And of course, you can do these on the floor. But I think it's good to do some chair stuff right now. So, and it's useful to know how to stretch when you've been sitting too long in a chair and you don't have a lot of choice about it. So once again, now I have one leg extended, the other leg is still normal, just sitting on the floor. So it's sort of like a forward bend with one leg. So you're going to inhale and bending at the hips. You can even put your thumbs in your hip joint if you want. And then you can bend forward, and these chairs with wheels on them make this really interesting. So then inhale and bend forward, and always extending so your spine stays long. Inhale, extend, and on the exhale, bend forward. Inhale, extend, exhale, bend forward. Oh, I heard a little knack there. And then on the next inhale, come up. And once again, have a look at what the leg you stretched feels like and what your other leg also feels like. Yeah, also in yoga class you breathe slower. I think it's because we actually learn to use our oxygen like deep divers. I bet they have it too, pearl divers. So let's do the other leg. So extend your other leg. You can put your thumbs in your hip joints again. Inhale and then exhale, bending forwards, extending out your spine. So make sure your shoulders are down and that your chair doesn't slip backwards like mine is. I need a chair with brakes. Inhale, extend, exhale, bend forwards. Still extending. Inhale and then exhale, bending forwards. And one last time. Inhale, extend out the top of your head and exhale, bend forwards. Oh, I got a little knack there. Oh, and on the next inhale, come up. Right. So now, those are just a few simple sort of office yoga exercises. So now what I'd like to do, I just want to check the timeline for all the goodies I want to do, is do a couple of yoga standing poses. So then I'm going to use this other camera and go stand over here. So now I'm going to show you, well, the part of my body that you can see, because, well, now you can see more of me, right? So these are the typical yoga poses, because after we do these, then I'm going to show you the extreme yoga poses for flute players. But first of all, we'll just do the sort of regular everyday flute, not flute poses, yoga poses. Okay. So one of the first ones, of course, is the forward bend, like we just did, or, well, actually, chest expansion. So that, once again, is going to be important to go up because the chest expansion, of course, goes backwards, but we don't want to crimp any of the vertebrae together. So be careful if you have any back problems, and be sure to tuck your tail, as my yoga teachers used to say, so that you keep your lumbar area long. So that's important, okay? And we can join our hands behind our back. And first of all, you can just stretch your arms up, right? If you have trouble joining your hands, then you grab a scarf or a towel or something, so between your hands. It depends. Some guys have quite wide shoulders, and this is not an easy exercise for them. So then we go back, and then we're going to inhale. Take the chest up to the ceiling, and on the exhale, bend forward at that hip joint. And keep the arms coming over the head. Now we're going to inhale. And on the exhale, come back up. Okay, now the next little one is you're going to have your feet hip width apart and sort of facing to the right. Let's say I'm going to the right. Probably looks to you like I'm going to the left, so to the side. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it facing over our foot this time. So the idea is you draw a line through your foot that intersects the back of your back foot arch. So I'm going to inhale, stretch my chest up, and then I'm looking towards my forward foot, and I'm going to bend over top of that on the exhale. And on inhale, you always get long, and on the exhale, see if you can bring your arms a little more over, and this should stretch the side of your ribs. Then inhale and come up. Then you're going to turn your feet the other way, so then your feet are, one is pointing like this and the other is pointed in. So then get your feet lined up. Join your hands behind your back. Inhale. And on the exhale, as you extend outwards through your head, you're going to bend over your front leg. And breathe normally. Inhale, exhale, a little deeper. You can relax your head. Inhale, exhale, a little deeper. And feel the stretch in your ribs. Now inhale, coming up, and turn your feet back to normal. Okay, and since we're working on the side intercostal muscles, I mean, I also do another thing. I just have I think we call them a medicine ball, you know, those giganto balls, and you can just lie on it, right? It's the ones you're supposed to sit on if you stay too long at your computer. But I also do the table stretch thing we first did, except on this medicine ball, so another option. Okay, so now we're going to do the usual triangle position, right? So again, you're going to line up your feet like we had them before. So your forward foot is going to be at right angles to your body. Your back foot is slightly turned in. You're going to try and keep your hips square. They won't really be square, but you know, they're not too far one way, not too far the other way, not turned like this. It's sort of two-dimensional, as if you were between two walls. Then you can lift your arms so that you're in this position, and then inhale. And on the exhale, then you do push your hips out and stretch out with the arm going down, and stretch up with the arm going up, right? So then breathing in and breathing out. See if you can move your upper shoulder towards the back so it opens your chest. Inhaling, exhale, and come up. And then turn your feet to the other side. Then we'll simply do the other side. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, pushing your hips out. The lower arm extends down. You're not really leaning on your lower arm. It's free. And then your upper arm goes up, and your shoulder also goes towards the back. Inhale and exhale. Can come up. Okay, so that is the typical yoga kind of stuff to do. Now I'm going to show you the extreme yoga. Just wait. Shall I change my video? Okay. So these are, when I used to study with Robert Aitken, then he asked me to teach a yoga class, because I used to do my yoga every morning. So he said, no, well, just get everyone else to come along. And so, this is where this extreme yoga comes from. So I'm going to share my screen now. And this is something that no yoga teacher will ever tell you to do, but it works really great. It's like warming up, except it all happens in 5 minutes. And so when you're doing your forward bend at first, what you actually do is you pant like a dog. let's all try that, okay? And especially if you have little kids who can't get enough air, if you get them to do this, all of a sudden they get a really great sound. So anyway, just do your forward bend standing up, then bend over, and you're going to put your hand over your mouth and suck in the air, because then you can really feel the air getting into your back. Just try panting even. But make sure the panting goes in your back. It's actually better for me if I suck air into my hand. Okay. Bend your knees to come up if you want. That protects your back. Then the next one is this windmill, which has actually nothing to do with yoga. But it does have something to do with the divine healing exercises that. Oh no, just wait. Here we go. The divine healing exercises that I wanted to show you a bit of, because they're also useful. This windmill, so every time you bring your hands up, you inhale, and then you hold your breath as you bring your arms down. And you just continue that, because of course, every time you put your arms down, your ribs will have to expand over top of your inflated lungs. Okay, so that is sort of like one of these other exercises that I'll show you after we go through here. Here's the chest expansion that we did, except here in the extreme flute stretches, maybe I should call them, is first of all, you fill up, and this was always a good way for filling up, also before a big solo or a long note or something you have to do. You breathe in a lot and out a bit. In a lot, out a bit. You can get more air like that. I mean, doesn't look really great if you're sitting in the orchestra and you're doing this, but you can still do it. So then you do that and you hold your breath while you do the chest expansion. And you have to be careful with this, because it's really easy to get dizzy when you put your head down and so forth. But it will definitely stretch those intercostal muscles more than if you just do the usual chest expansion. Okay, so and then we went these instructions here are just like what I went through with you. And the triangle, when I'm doing this one, I actually put my elbow on my knee. That's to protect the lower back, because then you actually try to curve more here. In yoga, of course, you're trying to extend and keep the spine from getting pinched. And here again, you hold your breath in a very non-yoga-like way, but this will, make you have to stretch your intercostal muscles even more. So, yeah, and if you feel dizzy, then exhale before you come up, breathe normally, and, take a break. And the tortoiseshell breath, that was just another one of Bob Akin's. Works on to work on the abdomen. Again, not really a yoga kind of a breath. But now what I would like to show you, I could have kept sharing that actually. I'd quickly like to show you the divine healing exercises, because these were another kind of exercise I used to do if I wasn't doing yoga. You basically, in my when I give my class or the course, then I go through these exercises. You can kind of get an idea of what they're like, but this is mostly a reminder. But these are what people did before martial arts. So you stretch out various parts of your body. These are the breath openers, and we won't go through them today. And here again, you do kind of a chest opening. Then they loosen the joints. I mean, you work on your fingers and on your wrists. I mean, these are all good for musicians and flute players, of course. Here is a kind of a tapping. You tap to tap on all of the energy meridians. It's like the Chinese meridians here. With a soft fist so that they get activated. You swing around, you move your hips, you move your legs, and da-da-da-da, and then it gets pretty athletic. This is just the beginning warm-ups. Apparently they do like 2 hours of warm-ups. And they have a video of it, but that was a little extreme for me. But I used to do these. These were really great. I did them regularly. And here you are stretching your sides. It's the chest expansion version again, except it's really from Asian martial arts, various other parts of your body getting stretched. But the reason I wanted to show this is because of the 5 healing sounds here, which I'd like to go through with you. And so, because as flute players, if you get your vocal cords working along with your sound, that's going to help your sound. I mean, clearly, if it's as if you're singing the sound, and if your vocal cords are in such a way that they could sing the note, then, of course, they're going to vibrate at that frequency. So it's good if we make some sound. These are the healing sounds. They're not particularly musical, but after you've done some exercise, they're good to do. So the first one, somebody's written in here what the colors are that go along with this, because you can also visualize colors, and they also go along with kidneys and liver and stuff like that. But anyway, first of all, we'll just put our arms up and take in a breath and go ah. Except if you're like Millie and you're in Starbucks. I assume she's not doing any of this. Then we'll put our arms down and to the sides of your body, pointing to the earth, and we'll go ooh. And now you bring your arms forward as if you are putting your hands in a waterfall. And the arms come up a little more. And then all the way up. And then we do the whole thing in one breath. So take a breath, and then we go another breath. Last time. And now just feel how you feel after that. How are your feet? How's your energy flowing? How do you feel in your body? Ridiculous? No. It's better if you do it in a class, so then you're not sort of all alone doing your funny thing. Okay. So now I would like to play something for you that I got Dr. Gabriela Minisbrandis to record. Now, a few years ago, I went off to a Pender Island flute retreat with Lorna McGee and William Bennett and Gwen Klassen and others. And Dr. Gabriela Minisbrandis was there. She's Lorna McGee's Alexander teacher. And so Lorna McGee, as you may know, is the principal flute in Pittsburgh. And at some point she had some body problems and she couldn't really play the flute, and so she found that by doing Alexander technique, things improved a lot. And then she started to work really directly with Gabby, as everyone calls her. And Gabby has like really magic hands, and she'll just sort of touch some part of your body, and then sound leaps out of you. So she's a kind of a magician in that way. And so she and Lorna are working together to make a book about flute playing and Alexander technique. But what I really liked, as I mentioned before, was this semi-supine constructive rest. So this is the part where you're going to need your a book and something kind of soft-ish, but not too soft to lie on. And for anybody who wasn't here before, you can stand up against a wall, put your shoulders against the wall, your bum against the wall, and then just feel how far away from the wall your head is. And then you'll need a book of about that thickness. So I'm going to share my screen again because I found some pictures on the internet of people doing this. So this is the position for semi-supine. And you can put your hands on your belly here. You can see. So basically, you just put your feet flat on the floor and your knees bent. And then Gabby is going to take us through 12 minutes, or a little 12 and a half minutes, of instructions, basically, of what, and where to put your attention in your body. And the exercises, the exercise I'm sharing, Divine Healing, was from martial arts, and the other one is typical yoga, and then the extreme yoga was from Robert Aitken. Okay, so now we're over to Alexander technique with Dr. Gabriele Minas-Brandis. She also has a center. She lives in Vancouver, but I think she's originally from Israel, but I'm not sure. And she also works with pianists, and she works with horses, and anyway, she's quite amazing. And so you can get into that position that I was showing before, semi-supine, constructive rest, and I'll play her version.
Constructive rest, or semi-supine, or lying down and becoming more and more aware of self and other. So find a spot on a hard surface, preferably the floor, on a yoga mat. Have a few books or yoga blocks under your head to support it. Bend your knees and put your hands on your belly. Take a moment to scan yourself. Is there symmetry between the way the shoulders touch the floor? How are the elbows supported on the floor? Can you feel the heel, big toe and little toe under each foot? Allow the head to rest. Allow the neck to be above the floor. And consider the whole length of your spine, from the lowest spot of your pelvis towards the place where the head and the neck meet. And let the neck be free to allow the head to rest on the book, to allow your back to lengthen and widen, to allow the trunk to be supported by the floor, to allow the knees to direct to the ceiling. Let the neck be free. And take a moment to pay attention to the sounds around you. And allow gravity to work and allow your trunk to slowly release into the floor. Some people like to think about releasing into the floor, and others like to think of the floor coming up to support them. See which of these ideas you like. So you're supported by gravity, thinking into the floor and away from the floor. And let the neck be free. Allow the head to rest on the book. Allow the back to lengthen and widen, and allow the limbs to separate from the trunk. So the arms direct to the side. There is space in the hip joint, the knees direct to the ceiling, and the ankle directs to the floor. And now imagine that there's some spaces or bubbles or just potential of movement in all the big joints. In the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the hip joints, the knees, the ankles. And as all these spaces are there, we expand in all dimensions. The space between the top of the head and the toes expands. The space between each elbow expands. And the distance between the back of the back and the front of the back expands. And let the neck be free. Allow the head to rest on the book. And observe the movement of breath. So the ribs move side to side and up and down. And allow yourself to take a moment to notice the three-dimensionality of the movement of breath. As the ribs move, the neck is free and the head rests more into the book. And just notice that we have shallow breaths and deep breaths, longer breaths, shorter breaths, depending on what we do, how we feel, what we think, what we intend to do. And let the neck be free. Allow the head to rest on the book. Allow the knees to direct to the ceiling. Allow the elbows to rest on the floor as you lengthen and widen. And now very slowly take your fingertips and direct them towards the ceiling. The elbows stay on the floor and the fingers direct to the ceiling. And this gives us another moment to look at our width and depth, allowing the arms to separate from the trunk. And now we're going to start by thinking about the fingertips on our left. Fingertips direct to the ceiling, space in the wrist, space in the wrist, space in the shoulder blade, coming back to the collarbone, going to the other side, space in the other shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, and the fingertips on the right directing to the ceiling. So we are connected from one tip to the other through the arms. And thinking up along the spine, allow the arms to come back to your belly. Allowing movement in the elbows and length in the arms. And take your time to do it and notice the difference between right and left, because we are asymmetrical beings. And if you play an instrument, imagine the instrument and see if that thought, that stimulus of the instrument, creates any kind of holding, tightening, releasing in you. And if so, just watch it. Can you think about the instrument and not respond in that way? Can you maintain the breath come and go as you think about your instrument? And let the neck be free. Allow the head to rest on the book. Allow the whole trunk to rest on the table, on the floor. Allow the knees to direct to the ceiling. Allow the ankles to be free. And let the neck be free. Allow yourself to visit the face from the inside. Can you release the cheeks? Can you allow the tongue to rest? Can you soften behind the eyes? Can you notice the weight of the head as you think about lengthening and widening? And let the neck be free. Allow the head to be forward and up. Lengthen and widen the back. Think about the width and depth and length of the trunk. Think about the arms separating from the trunk. The shoulders have freedom. And think about the hips separating from the trunk as the knees direct away, as the lower back releases more into the floor. And if your eyes were closed, open them softly and see if you can imagine the sides of the room you're in. How far can you see or can you imagine as you soften the gaze to the sides? Can you think about the distance between yourself and the ceiling and between the floor and the ceiling with you in the middle? And let the neck be free. Release the elbows. Release the wrists. Lengthen the fingers. Keep the spaces within the joint. Release the jaw. Release the cheeks. Soften around the eyes. Imagine a smile, but don't do anything. Check in with symmetry again. Are you touching the floor in a different way? Is there any kind of holding? Can you let go of some holding and still maintain the knees directing to the ceiling? Can you release the legs a bit more and still have the knees direct to the ceiling? And let the neck be free. And notice your breath. Are you inviting the ribs to direct to the sides? Are you allowing the movement of the diaphragm? Can you watch without interfering? Can you watch with curiosity? Can you take anything from the support you have from the floor to when you're upright? What do you need in order to maintain this coordination? What do you need that will be different as you negotiate a different relationship with gravity? And let the neck be free. Allow the head to rest on the book. Allow the elbows to release to the sides. Allow the knees to direct away towards the ceiling. Allow the ankles to direct to the floor. And when you're ready, take your time. Slowly roll to the side. Continue to think about spiraling and lengthening and maintaining space within all the joints as you slowly move yourself in a supportive way towards standing.
Does anyone have any questions? I hope you can hear me. Yes, I think I turned my microphone back on. Yes, it's happening. Right, this is something I asked Gabby how we should deal with this, because usually as a recording musician, then you copyright it and all that stuff. But she said, of course, then she'd have to join in the musician's copyright text thing and all this kind of stuff. And so we just agreed that we would use this separately. She would use it in her courses because I did the background music, and I would use it in my courses. But it's only for you guys. It's not to spread around. So it'll be on the recording, but that was our agreement. Yeah, I find it like an awareness. It's really like Shavasana or like a Yoga Nidra session or awareness session, especially made for flute players. Yeah. Okay. So those are some of the things that you can do. 2 or 3 things. You can just do shaking. You can do some of the divine healing exercises, which we didn't go through, but they exist. Or some yoga stretches, some easy ones, or if you really need a quick warm-up or you're really working on expanding your chest, you can do the extreme stretches from Robert Aiken that we did with him. Now I would like to show one other thing that's useful before we actually play something. So I'm not saying you have to go through all these things before you play. There's a choice. Different people have different things that work better for them, different situations. Sometimes I do one thing, sometimes I do something else. You have to feel how you feel in your body and choose that way. It can depend on the time of day. It can depend on, if you're standing backstage or just what can you do back there. So, but I would like to do a little pranayama. Now, when I was doing yoga with BKS Iyengar X years ago, excuse me, that was actually really extreme yoga, but in a good way. He would warn us about pranayama because it could be very strong. And if you read stuff about it on the internet, it also says, be careful about this breathing technique. So my suggestion is if it starts to feel weird, just stop it. I usually do the alternate nostril breathing, and except if one of my nostrils is blocked, in which case it will not work. But it's the one I'm going to show today. So what you're going to do is, it's a little awkward. My mic's stuck onto my glasses, so my hair is sort of stuck in here. Okay, but I could show it sort of like this. I do it with my second finger on my third eye, I guess is what it is. And then you close one nostril sort of with your thumb joint here or something, and your other nostril, I use my middle finger here, but I've seen pictures where they use other fingers, and there's probably a treatise about which finger you should use, but for me the main thing is close your nostril. So first of all, just breathe in and breathe out normally, and then put your hand in position, and you're going to close your right nostril and breathe in through your left nostril. And then hold, you close both nostrils, and then release your thumb and breathe out through your nose. Then breathe in directly through your right nostril. That was your right nostril. Then close both, hold your breath. Nostril. So that's one round, and that's about the rhythm that I would take. You don't have to follow me. I'll keep saying what I'm doing for the next 2 rounds, but if you breathe at a different speed, just do your own speed. So block your right nostril, in through your left nostril, hold, block both nostrils. Unblock your right nostril, exhale through it. And then directly inhale. Block, hold. Exhale through the left nostril. And one more time, inhale through left. Block. Exhale right. Inhale. Block. Exhale. Unblock right. And you'll notice that that has a very balancing effect on your mind, actually. So it's also a really great thing to do if you're feeling nervous or just need to come down. Now there's various charts, different ways you can hold your breath out. You can breathe in and out through both nostrils, and some breaths are energizing and some are calming and some are balancing. So there's a lot of flavors, and but this is the one that I learned. So I like it. It's a bit addictive, actually. Okay, so now, keeping on the sort of Indian side of things, in Indian classical music, or yeah, mostly classical music, I guess, they use the tambura a lot. So you may know what a tambura is, but I happen to have one, so I'm going to show it to you. Ouch. So it's made of like a gourd. It has 4 strings here, and tuning pegs at the top. So it's a fairly straightforward instrument, and it makes the drone for the instrumentalists. So basically, Indian music, you play in one scale. Well, they have hundreds of scales, and you have to, every note has its place, and you're not supposed to play too much of one note before you play the next note, and so forth. We're not going to do that. But they do like the overtones. And they actually, you put these little, whoops, hitting stuff here. They put strings here at the bottom, little pieces of thread, so that you can actually get this twangy sound. And I think the effect of these overtones, it sort of cleanses probably your chakras and your energy system. just by vibrating. And of course, the typical thing is it's the dominant and the tonics that are played. So it's not always like that. They have different tunings, but that's the typical tuning. They also play harmoniums a lot, you know, those little sort of organ-looking things, which are actually from England, from the colonial times. But because they have this sort of overtony sound, that's great. You can get a tambura app on your phone or on your computer. You could, or there used to be, before apps, you could buy a Shruti box. So sometimes the app is called Shruti. And the Shruti box you could, you know, tune to different notes, and so you didn't have to have somebody sitting there for hours while you practiced doing this. It's very meditative, but after a while you know, you have to hold your arm up like that for like 2 hours. These Indian concerts can be really long. So what I did next, and this is the part where you can get your flutes, is because of the vagaries of Zoom, I actually made a pre-recorded track to play with, and this happens to be in E flat, but the track I used is in D, and I actually, so that you don't have to think too much about what note you're playing, I just played D's and A's mostly, and I think sort of as I got further on I might have added some other notes, but basically the idea is I play something and then you play. You can either play what I played or something similar to it, and it's just as a sort of an impetus so that you have something to play with or somebody to play with. Now, I won't hear you, you won't hear me, I'll be muting myself also, but you'll hear the recording. And I also put some visuals with it, but just of tamburas and tabla. I put some tabla in at the end. That's the typical drums that they use in India. There are tunable, well, one of them is. And you know, in India, of course, they have much more complicated rhythms than we do. Also, the Africans think we're sort of illiterate about rhythms. 2/4, 3/4, that's about it. Well, for centuries anyway. And so they, you know, if they do 16 beats, then, you know, sometimes it's 3 + 5, 5 + 3, and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting, and they have a whole rhythmic language. You know, sometimes they're talking this interesting sort of sounding language, but what they do is saying the beats. But they cannot write down the music like we can in Western music. They cannot write the notes down with the right rhythm. So that's something they're kind of amazed if I would write down this. I would go, oh, that, and then I would write down the notes and then go, oh, because they just have to memorize it all, which of course trains another part of your brain. Not bad. Okay, so the way that this goes along is for about 4 minutes and 45 seconds. I wrote it down. It's just this drone, and I think I'm also playing. I had a keyboard bass and some keyboard stuff in there. And then the tablas come in after 4 minutes and 45 seconds. But it's not really clear, well, for a major or minor, because I'm just playing the tonic and the dominant mostly. And then at 8 minutes and 10 seconds, then I get minor, and then I start bending notes and sort of messing around a bit. So I think the whole thing is like 10 minutes or something like that. So I'm going to find that now and put it on. And, okay, so before I do that, I better do all the sherry stuff. That, or that at the moment. Or that. Good. Sorry, sound. Okay. So that was warming up like the Indians do. So you can do that many ways. Usually, like I mentioned, they start by having long tones, and then they build on their scale. First of all, they introduce everything only in the first octave, and you could spend between 10 minutes and a half an hour just playing in the first octave. And then you can, by the end, they heat up, and often things get faster, and the tabla player starts to do stuff, and then they imitate each other. But, that really takes a long time. So sometimes the first piece can be 45 minutes, or, well, it depends how into it they are. So it's all, the classical music is not really written. It's how you play in a scale. And so for us, we can, of course, take our classical music and use that as something to improvise on. So double tongue never felt easier. Oh, that's great. No, these exercises are, well, I mean, I'm a flutist. I also play keyboards, but mostly, of course, it's for any instrument. So far, I have somebody playing the xylophone and clarinet players. I had tested this out on some of my orchestra members, and so the bassoon player came, and of course, my expertise is going to be in flute, but it works for everything, for voice, for percussion. I mean, of course, you can't play long notes, well, unless you have a vibraphone or something. So, yeah, right. Yeah, I find this is a really fun way to warm up instead of, now I will play Moïse again or something, although that has a very meditative quality to it. And you could also do that, like with a drone of some kind, just so that you hear the, it's great for tuning, right, if you just play with your app. Right, if anybody has any questions and they want to unmute or put them in the chat, just do so. So now, what I like to do is something where we sing. Of course, nobody will hear you. And I have chosen a track where I mostly sang in tune, so that was good. And I had some other people singing. What is the app that has tabla music tracks? Yeah, I don't know. That tabla is actually on my synthesizer. And I did look around for tabla stuff. I think you can buy sample tracks, but then you have to sort of loop them yourself. I did find some tabla tracks just online, but that was just on my synthesizer. Yeah, I didn't look for more tabla after that. But there are tabla apps. The thing is, of course, you can't play both apps at the same time. If you have a tabla and tambura and tabla by itself, well, then you need two devices, one playing the tambura and one playing the tabla app. Also possible. You can also just use a drum app like Loops, L-O-O-P-Z, and I mean, or Z. I'm talking to United States of Americans, right? And so, yeah, you can use that. I mean, it just has straight, swing or, bass. I mean, it's good. Then you have something rhythmic to play along with. Tabla is cool because it's interesting. For us, we don't hear it that much. But, yeah, you can find stuff like that. And I was going to say something else, and then I forgot. There are a bunch of apps for iOS, yeah, right, and some for Androids. Right. If you think of the names, put them in. All I can think off the top of my head is Loops. Shruti box or tambura. Now tambura has various spellings. Sometimes they spell it tanpura or tambura with just B-U-R-A at the end. If you write with a U, like an O-U at the end, O-U-R-A, then they come up with all these little drums called tambours. So of course, like anywhere, not so much in North America, but like anywhere in Europe, if you just go like from the south of Germany to the north of Germany, they have a completely different accent, and that's well, it's a few hours drive. And of course, if you just go over the border, it's a completely different language. So I imagine they say tambura in many different ways all over India. There's probably not just one specific thing. Okay, so now because India is the most meditative area, if you of the world, probably. I mean, The Japanese do quite a bit with Zen, and of course, you know, the Buddha came out of China, you know, Lao Tzu or something. Anyway, I don't really know my meditation history, but the thing about India is that they've sort of erred on the side of meditation. I mean, we've erred on the side of materialism, and meditation was nothing until 50 years ago or so. But it's very meditative in India. Like, for example, it's acceptable if you're a sadhu, a monk, that you can be a silent sadhu, and you just sit there and people will feed you. And this is actually what happened to Ramana. He was always sort of we would call them a dreamer in Western society, but basically he had very close access to this, his inner self. What you find when you're meditating, and what we actually want to bring through when we're playing. And finally, he kind of dropped out of school, and then he took his mom's milk money or something and took off on the train to go to the south of India, to Arunachala, Tiruvannamalai. This was this mountain that was meditative, I guess, and I thought, somebody pointed out to me, you know, mountains, they're sort of shaped like crystals, they're probably meditative. And I always liked going to the mountains when I lived by the Rocky Mountains, and, you know, nature, cool, but mountains were really great. So anyway, he went off to his mountain, and basically kind of fell into a trance or a swoon, and he didn't eat, and people came and like put food in his mouth. I mean, in our civilization, you would just die, or people would put you in an insane asylum or something. But there they understood about this samadhi, or this state you can go into if you get very meditative. I haven't really I have gotten into a state after yoga where I felt so peaceful, I just felt like I never wanted to get up again, but obviously I did. So these states, they come and go also, so you can't really depend on them, but they are a way to sort of get in the flow and get into the zone. And so there's a song that when I was playing music before and after these satsangs, meetings in truth, then sometimes we would sing this, the Ramana song. The words are Ramana, so that makes that fairly straightforward. No difficult words. There's also a lot of interesting bhajans and stuff, but then you have to say Om Purnamida Purnamidam, blah 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 blah. I mean, many of you probably know the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhurvuvah Swaha, and so on. So now we're going to do a version of Ramana. So here, you have a choice. You can sing along. And I had some other people singing with me, so then sometimes I sang a second voice, and sometimes I sang a harmony voice. You can also play the flute, of course, along. It's in A minor, so the chords are A minor and E. So also fairly straightforward. And I also made it as a kind of a slideshow, so you can see some pictures of Ramana, who is no longer with us since eons, but I forget how long. Anyway, he was around when people were taking photographs and films, so you can see what he looks like. Okay, now sharing the screen and the sound. Okay, and here is
Ramana, 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 Ramana.
so that was the Ramana song. I actually don't know who wrote that. Pocket Raga on Android has tabla. Ooh, great. Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to tell you how I usually structure these sessions that I'm giving. Well, first of all, here, I'll share my screen again because it has some goodies on it. At the moment, I'm doing the meditative music making deep dive so that you can really touch your essence and express your being. And one of the people who's been doing it has already started to write little melodies, and so then we did a session on how to use Audacity, this freeware, because I'd like to hear what the people are doing, and so I think it's good if you can sort of put down a backing track. I mean, I have backing tracks, or you can get an app that makes your backing track, and then we can share actually our audio files. And at the end, it would be really cool if we could all together make a music meditative concert, and so that means meditative music concert, and we would use the music that we created in the course. And so here it says everything sort of like we did, so how you find your inner peace and transmit it through music. And it's really the most rewarding kind of music that I found. I also like to still play an orchestra and play French music and play Bach and stuff, but somehow I get more in touch with how the composer felt when they were composing it. Because if you do a little bit of it yourself, it's like, wow, that's where the spark is. And so we do various things like we did today, yoga or qigong or these divine healing exercises, or there's many possibilities, shaking. And then there's 3 more of these meetings left, and this is so you can experience the deep peace of meditation and bring it into your music and daily life. It's also good for stress release. And this will help you to express your music from your innermost core, so that you're much more than just a note factory, because of course we do get kind of fixated on the notes, because, well, if you want to learn a piece, you have to learn them. And if it sounds like fun, because it is fun, and it's very blissful, and it's the most rewarding music I've found. And I used to be the techie person, like I had to run all the equipment, and then I would be playing the flute, and then I would be so touched I would start to cry, well, tear up. Then my nose would run. Then I couldn't blow my nose because I was like right in front of a microphone, so that's a bit of a drawback, but if you're working with Audacity, you can just cut that part out, and no problem. So anyway, the next meetings are on Sundays, the 9th, the 16th, and the 30th. And the times are, Eastern Daylight Time. I just did Eastern and Pacific Daylight Time, except for October 30th, and this is the European times. And I actually would like to offer it to the NFA members for half price. So instead of $300, it's $150. So I'm going to put this, what do you call this thing? In the chat. If only I could find the chat. I have to stop sharing, I think. It's easier for me to find the chat. This URL link. And that's the page I'm looking at. You can look at the page again. Okay. So here you can click on the PayPal button. There's also, you can write to me. Here's my address. I should have stuck that in the chat too. Okay, I will. And, oh, look, a typo. I just did this today. You can simply send me some message. Oh, that's good. And if it's really a problem for you to pay, then there's scholarships available. You can send me an email or write to me, or scroll down and make an appointment. Scrolling down is down to somewhere down here. Make an appointment, that's down here. And then there's going to be manifesting meditative music, where we actually really, the goal is to make a meditative music concert at the end. And once again, it's to evoke and draw out our inner essence, because when people come to hear us, that's what they want to hear us. You know, they don't want to hear an imitation of somebody. And you know, it's your authentic self. That's what we are. That's what we'd love to hear in the audience. And so, again, we use the various techniques I've been using for the last 35 years, and they're effective. And I find that using these meditations with music, it makes a container for the meditation to happen in, so that you can, you know, otherwise you'd shake for like a minute. You go, well, that's enough. But if the music is there, yeah, you sort of keep going, and it builds up, and it sort of brings you with it. And I find that really helpful. And of course, it helps remove blocks, like the shaking we did. It will reduce anxiety and frees up your creativity. And then we mess around with very simple improvisations. Most classical musicians are terrified of improvising. Ah! And so, again, on Zoom, nobody can hear you but you. And so, I mean, in the course, I'd like it if maybe somebody would share their pre-recorded thing they did, or if we just have a tambura in the background, maybe we can do a little playing back and forth. But as I said, Zoom, as soon as you put on something played on your computer, then it cuts out your flute sound and does all kind of wacko stuff. Of course, you can just make a wacko stuff improvisation too, so why not? So like I said, the goal is to create our own meditative music concert. And we could even present that online to our friends, or just to ourselves. And that's, it's actually the same kind of schedule. We meet every 2 weeks on Sundays for a couple of hours, same timing, so a little earlier than we've met today. And again, that's if you want to bring your authentic self into your music and your daily life, and you want to express music from your innermost core and send your unique musical vibration out into the world. And somehow I've had this music I made years ago, and it's still being played and touching people, and I think more of us could do that. And I think it would be cool if more of us sent our frequency out, our authentic frequency out into the world. And, you know, it really makes an effect on people and what they hear, you know. They did an experiment on surgeons. And if the surgeons played sort of, you know, Beatles or not, you know, soft rock music, then the operation went sort of normal. But if they played hard rock loud, everything went much faster. So I thought that was a really weird kind of a thing to do an experiment on. But once again, this I would like to offer also half price. And so if you can, the first 10 people that sign up will get it for half price. And I haven't advertised it anywhere else. So you found it first. There's 6 sessions. And so that's like $50 a session. It's a deal. You can also pay it in 3 monthly installments. So here's the more instructions. If you just want more information, here you can sign up on the mailing list. Find out when we're going to do our meditative music concert, for example, or any other things I'm doing. I'm playing this weekend some meditative music, but that won't be broadcast. And if you want to make an appointment and have a chat with me, you can click here. And if you want to know what we did this summer, other things we did emotional freedom technique, EFT, that was really great. We sang a Sanskrit mantra with the meaning, this is perfect, that is perfect. If you take the perfect away from perfection, what remains is perfection. I love that. Anyway, then we added percussion, and then I made a swing version. Yeah, we had fun. Here we did some Alexander technique, and I had some rhythmic backing tracks, and here we did the shaking and the pranayama, and then I had a backing track with some ice rain and forest, and here we went through the divine healing exercises, sang a different mantra, and had some God's bathtub, one of my favorites, backup sounds. And the first one we did yoga and a listening exercise, and then the tambura. And then there's some what people said about it, and reactions. Right. And much to my surprise, these two kids from Romania signed up, and one is 8 and one is 11. And I thought, really? Can they speak English? And, well, they learned it starting in kindergarten, and they've been very enthusiastic, and they have their translator, and I do everything with closed captions. And they really love it. And so, because they go to a music school, like they learn music there, their lessons are at the school, and so forth. Anyway, I was surprised. I didn't really think it was going to work out for kids, but it's great. So it would also be really good for your students to just have some of these tricks. Also, I have the oldest person is in pension, so much to my surprise, it really is adaptable for everyone.
Well, if no one has any questions, thank you for joining our first all virtual event series here at NFA. We do have events every Sunday throughout the fall, and you can sign up on our website, and they'll be just like this on a variety of different topics. So I'm so glad that we joined us. This video will be recorded and posted on our webpage, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, and I'll also try to link all of the resources that we're talking about today along with the recording. So great.
Thank
it's
you.
great to
Thank you very
see
much.
everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.